Surprising news out of Buckingham Palace. Prince Harry and his family make the long-awaited royal visit to the King and Queen.
What will be the legacy of Harry and Meghan's return to the United Kingdom and the face-to-face meeting between King Charles and his grandchildren?
47 minutes. That's reportedly how long Meghan Markle lasted inside Highgrove before walking straight back out to a waiting car. No photograph was taken, no statement was released. No sign the reunion she reportedly flew across an ocean for ever happened at all. And the reason why is apparently far colder and far more calculated than anyone watching this story expected.
King Charles caught up with his grandchildren, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, for the first time in 4 years, after Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, visited the King and Queen at Highgrove in Gloucestershire yesterday.
By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what reportedly went wrong behind those gates, and why the silence afterward may be the most telling part of the entire visit. The countdown begins. For months, the official story was simple. Meghan wasn't coming to the United Kingdom, full stop, because taxpayer-funded security had reportedly not been approved for her or her children, and without it, a return to Britain simply wasn't safe. That was the narrative Harry and Meghan's camp repeated again and again as the reason nothing could change. Then, almost overnight, the story flipped. Reports began circulating that Meghan had landed in the UK with Archie and Lilibet, apparently to see the king, possibly to begin some kind of reconciliation.
So I could almost visualise that's where this meeting took place, in the beautiful surroundings of the Cotswolds countryside at Highgrove. I'm sure over some tea, and I'm sure with the children around, the conversation would have stayed very light, I suppose very kind of generic. So I don't think there would be any kind of serious discussions taking place.
For royal watchers, that reversal alone raised an obvious question. If this trip could happen now, without the security arrangement they had insisted was non-negotiable, what exactly changed? Whatever the answer, the king was reportedly pleased. He hadn't properly seen his grandchildren in years, not since the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee back in June 2022. For a grandfather in his late 70s, and one who has been managing his own health challenges in the years since, that's birthdays missed, milestones missed, years he genuinely can't get back. To many, this looked like the moment. Finally, a chance for Charles to sit with his son and grandchildren, maybe show Archie and Lilibet a version of England they'd never really known growing up in Montecito, the gardens he's famous for, the countryside, a slower version of family life than anything California offers. Ask most royal commentators on a random Monday whether this meeting would ever actually happen, and the honest answer would have been no chance. Too much bad blood, too many memoir pages, too many interviews, and yet, somehow, it did. What made it even more surprising is how quietly it all came together. There was no formal announcement, no joint statement from either camp confirming a visit was even being planned.
The mood music, that all they got back from Harry was that he didn't want to do that. At the 11th hour last Saturday,
reports suggest the arrangements were handled almost entirely behind the scenes, discreet enough that even seasoned royal correspondents were reportedly caught off guard when word first started to leak. If you're new here, this channel breaks down these stories the moment the palace won't. So, hit subscribe now, because what reportedly happened next at Highgrove is the part nobody saw coming, and it only gets stranger from here. The gates of Highgrove. When Harry and Meghan reportedly arrived, Harry may have expected to walk straight in and see his father after all this time. Instead, according to reports, they were made to wait outside while final arrangements and protocol were finished before the meeting could even begin. It's a small detail, but it apparently sent an unmistakable message before a single word was exchanged. This was not their house, and it was not their timeline. A grown man reportedly left standing at his own father's gate while aides finalized a schedule. There's also been talk of a will they, won't they energy hanging over the entire trip. At first, it looked like Harry might travel alone, a quiet, low-key visit with no cameras and no complications. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Meghan and the children were suddenly on the same flight, and the tone of the whole trip shifted from private to potentially historic. But once they landed at Highgrove, reports suggest the reunion didn't unfold the way either of them had pictured. Sources describe it as anything but warm. Instead of a family stepping back into each other's arms after years apart, this reportedly felt like two sides meeting across a table, each aware of exactly where the other stood, and neither willing to move first. Reports suggest the itinerary itself was tightly controlled from the moment the Sussexes touched down. No detours, no side visits announced in advance, no signal to the public that this was anything more than what the palace would later insist it was.
And I think that meeting with the king, which will boost Harry, it will boost him personally and it will boost him in the public's mind.
A private family matter, not a state occasion, and not even an official one. Not a palace, not a promise. Here's where it gets interesting. There have been claims that ahead of the visit, Meghan sent over a list of specific requests, arrangements she wanted made, possibly imagining a stay inside Buckingham Palace itself, the full institutional welcome, complete with staff, security, and the symbolism that comes with the address alone. Instead, the family reportedly ended up at a private country home, not a palace, and by most accounts, she didn't get what she'd asked for. Reports suggest her frustration was tied directly to two things: no taxpayer-funded security detail, and no invitation to stay anywhere near the palace itself. Rather than the warm, unscripted reunion she may have pictured, this was reportedly a very direct conversation about boundaries, expectations, and exactly what a return to royal life would and would not include. Sources describe the tone as businesslike almost from the first minute, less a homecoming and more a negotiation with predetermined terms. The message, according to multiple accounts, was blunt. The family has moved on, and any path back comes with specific non-negotiable conditions attached, conditions that reportedly had nothing to do with forgiveness and everything to do with structure. That was apparently not part of the plan in her head, and by most descriptions, it showed almost immediately. The walkout picture. A long gravel drive, a car idling by the entrance. 47 minutes after walking in, expecting open arms, Meghan reportedly walked back out into the daylight, having been told, in plain terms, exactly where the lines now sit. Accounts describe her jaw set, her steps quick, her eyes fixed somewhere past the cameras that weren't even there.
The Sussexes will be disappointed that they did not get a photograph of this meeting, given that it would enhance their brand.
No lingering on the doorstep, no backward glance toward the house. Just a straight line to the car, the door shutting behind her a beat faster than protocol usually allows. The king, for his part, was reportedly glad simply to see his grandchildren again after so many years apart. But by nearly every account, there was little warmth left in the room by the time tea was cleared. No breakthrough, just polite goodbyes, exchanged quickly, before 3 cars pulled away in 3 different directions. No cameras, no statement. And here's the detail that reportedly says more than anything else that happened that day. There is no photograph, not one image of the king with his grandchildren, not one shot of the family together. For a couple whose entire public brand runs on carefully curated imagery, on the single frame that says everything without a word, walking away from Highgrove with nothing to post may be the loudest silence of this entire story. A photograph like that could have been worth more than any statement, any interview, any carefully placed source. It would have said, "Welcome back, forgiven, home." Instead, reportedly, there's nothing. No image, no caption, no acknowledgement from the palace that the meeting even took place. Just an empty space where the defining photo of the year was supposed to be. Think about what that single photograph would have meant. A grandfather crouched down beside 2 small children on a lawn in Gloucestershire. That image alone, released through official channels, would have functioned as an unspoken royal seal of approval, the kind no press release could replicate. It's reportedly exactly the kind of image Meghan hoped to walk away with, and by every account available, the palace understood precisely what that photograph would be worth, which may be exactly why it was never taken. No cameras were permitted inside. This, sources were reportedly told in advance, was a family visit, not a state one, and family visits, by long-standing royal custom, don't come with a photographer on standby. Meghan and the children reportedly departed shortly after, while Harry stayed behind for Invictus preparations. Throughout the visit, Meghan was notably absent from any public appearance, reportedly to avoid a hostile reception, choosing instead to stay entirely out of sight rather than risk being photographed by anyone other than herself. There have also been claims that gifts tied to her lifestyle brand weren't warmly received during the trip, quietly set aside rather than acknowledged. It's worth noting the optics here too. The family flew in, reportedly went straight to Highgrove and little else, then flew home, all without the round-the-clock security they've long insisted was essential for any UK visit at all, a contradiction that critics were quick to point out the moment reports of the trip surfaced. The King's calculation. So, why did Charles keep things so tightly controlled? Reports suggest he was navigating a genuinely difficult position. On one hand, a real desire to finally spend time with his grandchildren. On the other, the wider consequences for the rest of the family, particularly the ongoing strain between Harry and Prince William, and the well-documented tension between Harry and Queen Camilla following his memoir. Those wounds, by most accounts, haven't closed. The king reportedly understood that any visible gesture of forgiveness could ripple outward in ways he'd have to manage for years, not days. Because of that, reports suggest he deliberately kept the meeting formal rather than emotional, structured rather than spontaneous. Many royal watchers see that as the smart move. As both a father and the head of an institution, every choice he makes carries weight beyond his own household, and appearing to erase years of public conflict overnight could have sent exactly the wrong signal, both to the family and to the country watching. There's also been speculation about William's reaction once word of the meeting reached him, with some accounts suggesting he was less than pleased that any reunion happened at all, given how raw the rift between the brothers reportedly remains. Some estimates put the meeting at under an hour, others suggest closer to 90 minutes. What most sources agree on is how little was actually said. Careful small talk, the kind the royal family has perfected across generations, pleasant, polished, and almost entirely empty of anything meaningful. An hour and a half, by some accounts, spent saying almost nothing at all, no headline confessions, no cleared air, just the practiced rhythm of a family that has learned to talk without really saying anything. There's a reason for that caution, and it isn't only about Harry. The king is reportedly still weighing how any gesture toward the Sussexes lands with the rest of the working royals, the ones who show up to engagements every week without headlines or Netflix deals attached to their names. Handling this the wrong way, according to several sources, risked looking like reconciliation was for sale. Granted, the moment the right cameras, or in this case, the complete absence of cameras, made it safe to extend. Every decision here, right down to the guest list for tea, reportedly had to be weighed carefully against how it would read to a family and a public, still watching closely for any sign of favoritism. What's left now? Reaction has split along predictable lines. Supporters of Harry and Meghan point to the fact that the meeting happened at all as a genuine first step. Critics argue that, while it technically took place, it produced nothing resembling a breakthrough. The Sussexes reportedly hoped this visit would crack open the door to a stronger relationship with the royal family. Based on everything reported since, that door appears to be exactly where it was before Meghan ever landed. There are questions now about what this means for the Invictus Games, an event Harry has poured years into. Some believe the lingering tension makes it less likely senior royals will publicly align themselves with anything connected to him in the near future, even as the event's profile continues to grow internationally. The palace, according to several reports, remains cautious, largely because nearly every public moment involving Harry and Meghan quickly becomes surrounded by debate rather than goodwill. Future invitations or any visible involvement from senior royals may stay limited for some time. A noticeable shift from the kind of standard royal support you'd expect if father and son had genuinely reconciled, the sort of appearance that would once have been treated as routine. For Meghan, this trip was reportedly supposed to be a defining moment, a public reconciliation, a handful of carefully placed photographs, maybe a joint statement dominating headlines, reminding the world the Sussexes still matter on a global stage. Instead, by most accounts, she got a brief, quiet meeting behind closed gates that wrapped up before anyone outside had time to notice it had even started. No photographs, no statement, no content. The palace didn't even confirm it had happened, leaving the entire visit to exist only in leaks, secondhand accounts, and the silence that followed. There's also the question of precedent. One royal insiders have reportedly raised privately behind closed doors since the visit took place. If this is what a reconciliation attempt looks like now, quiet, bounded, photo-free, does that become the template going forward? Or was this simply a first cautious test to see whether trust could survive a single afternoon together? Royal historians have pointed out that this kind of tightly managed first meeting isn't unprecedented within the family. Previous rifts have often been mended in stages, with formal, low-key visits like this one coming first, followed only much later, if ever, by anything resembling a public show of unity. Whether that's the direction things are heading here, or whether Highgrove turns out to be as far as it goes, reportedly remains genuinely unclear even to those close to the family. So, can this relationship actually be repaired? And what would it genuinely take from both sides to rebuild something real after everything reportedly went wrong at Highgrove, especially with so much still left unspoken between father and son? Would Meghan need to fully step back from the brand building and the interviews for the family to trust an actual reunion? Or has too much already been said on both sides for that kind of trust to ever fully return? For a woman who flew across an ocean with her children, hoping for one visible sign that the family had let her back in, what she reportedly got instead was no headline, no viral image, just a quiet car ride back to the airport. If you want the next update on this story, the moment it breaks, subscribe now, drop your take in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to see it.